First Class Productions.
The very first Castlevania on the NES invaded European shores in 1988. By this time, Japanese and North American players were already immersed in what would become a legendary franchise. Yet in Europe, we were stuck in an alternate reality, one where the inaugural game wasn't the NES classic at all. It was VampireKiller on the MSX2, a home computer from 1983. Depending on the source, this enigmatic title debuted in Europe in 86 or 87 without the Castlevania branding. In Japan it arrived just a month after the NES launch, while North America never saw it at all.
Today it remains cloaked in mystery and is largely forgotten by modern gamers, accessible only through emulation, a route I seldom take. But for this review, I'm venturing into those shadowy corners. How does VampireKiller differ from its iconic sibling and what makes it unique? Join me as I uncover the secrets of this elusive title and decide if it warrants a second look.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom reviews.
Before we start, this game is usually played with a keyboard, but I'm not a purist, so I'm taking the liberty of using a PS4 controller.
VampireKiller carries the core DNA of NES Castlevania, but with its own rough, experimental edge. You still take on the role of Simon Belmont, armed with his trusty whip and a modest selection of sub-weapons. The opening feels instantly familiar, even if the color palette is a little different. You start outside the castle, collect hearts and snag a whip upgrade. Here you can only upgrade it once. However, the MSX2's technical limitations are evident. Instead of the smooth scrolling of the NES, moving right abruptly blacks out the screen before revealing the next area. The rooms don't load in real time. It can be jarring at first, but you soon learn to roll with it. Simon's noticeably faster movement speed here adds an extra twist that can throw off your timing. Inside the castle, you say hello to the usual ghouls, but then you notice a blue ring, granting a brief moment of invulnerability. A handy tool when the battle heats up. Blue treasure chests appear alongside keys required to unlock them, adding another strategic layer to your exploration. Each chest always contains the same item, so it becomes a test of your memory on repeat playthroughs. It helps to get familiar with the maps. Now I got boots. And now they're gone? I don't understand, but I feel robbed of a good time. That door is closed, so I'm going down the stairs. This is where it becomes clear that the stages in VampireKiller aren't linear. They're a looping maze like you'd see in some action RPGs from this time period. Maybe it's easier to understand if I show you a map. You see, if I keep going right, the layout starts to repeat itself. But what's the goal exactly? To track down the elusive silver key needed to open a locked door. I can't seem to find it though. Well, get this. These silver keys are notoriously well hidden, usually squeezed behind breakable walls.
Oh boy, I can only imagine what's ahead of me.
Once you push through that door, you enter a new stage. Similar to the NES version, each block of levels is divided into 3 stages, but each stage here is its own mini-labyrinth that, while reminiscent of its sibling, plays out in surprisingly different ways. It can be surreal if you grew up with the NES Castlevania and you jump right into this game without an explanation, maybe even intimidating. The item list is staggering. Back in the day, having an instruction manual was almost a necessity. Today we have the internet. Holy shit, look how many items there are.
I have the memory of a goldfish. I can't remember all this.
You'll find 3 alternative weapons to the whip, which we'll talk about later, and 2 sub-weapons. Holy water and the hourglass, which is basically like the stopwatch. Here's a stage map you can find to help navigate the maze. But then there are 9 passive items and 13 stage items. Think about the passive ones like item buffs in an RPG. For instance, 2 different shields provide unique defensive benefits. One lets you take half damage, and the other blocks small projectiles. The magic candle highlights breakable blocks for those impatient souls like myself. The boots make you faster and the wings let you jump higher. The blue orb makes you invincible. The magic staff is a gem that lets you open multiple chests without a key. Seeing as you can only hold 1 gold key at a time, this is a true gift and way less boring than it sounds. Health items range from red orbs, which give you a quarter of your health back, to the health potion that refills it completely.
So no need for disgusting wall me today.
And then there are the crosses. The silver one prevents enemies from respawning for a time, while the golden cross wipes the screen clean, smiting all non-believers and heretics. Adding to the quirky charm is the merchant in the white robe, who sells items in exchange for hearts. With the right Bible, white to lower prices, black to hiking them up, you can manipulate the deals, though it's wise to avoid the black Bible at all costs. You can keep hitting merchants, causing them to change color and eventually vanish, because sometimes a bit of aggression is the only option. You can even get hearts by whipping them, but there's also a chance that you'll lose hearts, so keep that in mind. That covers the basics. Block 1 starts off relatively straightforward, but then comes the boss, a familiar bat encounter. With the hourglass in hand, you're an exterminator and it's no hassle. So let's check in on how I'm doing.
While I'm still on the fence about some of the design choices, it holds my interest enough to keep me diving deeper into its maze-like world.
Where the second block in Castlevania felt like a breezy stroll, here I got tripped up right from the start. Those knights, which were a complete joke on the NES, take 4 hits with your wimpy whip. Hit points for days. In cramped spaces, that's a serious problem. Even some of the candles aren't the treasure trove you'd hope for. They hide slimes instead, the only enemy not seen in the NES game. These goopy critters jump at you with maddening persistence, forcing you to memorize which candles are safe. I'm too lazy to draw a map, so let's hope for the best. Shit, I've died 3 times already. What? Game over? No continues? No passwords? Just cruel, unyielding punishment.
Unlike NES Castlevania, which kindly lets you restart from the current block, VampireKiller demands you start the entire game anew. I know this wasn't unheard of in the 80s, but that doesn't make it okay.
Man, that first part is hard, and after securing the silver key, you have to go that way again. Enemies respawn so much that they gum up your path. The axe, the strongest weapon in the game, offers a sliver of hope. You can throw it as much as you want, but with a twist. Like a boomerang, it returns to you, and if you don't catch it, it disappears. It's an interesting mechanic that adds strategy, but your first run will undoubtedly be rough even with this weapon. Stage 5 isn't too challenging, but in stage 6 you're forced to break an array of blocks in succession to obtain another silver key. While the familiar spikes make a return, they don't pose much of a threat. The Medusas on their own are manageable, but when combined with the other foes, they push the tension to the limit. When I finally reached the boss armed with both holy water and the hourglass, yet low on hearts, I was stunned to see that one well-timed splash of holy water when time was frozen was all it took to dispatch it. An unexpectedly simple finish. Overall, the first part of Block 2 feels significantly harsher than its NES sibling and not in a fair way. Can't say I'm thrilled so far. Block 3 is where the NES game starts turning the screws. In VampireKiller, we've already passed that point, and now we're just spiraling deeper into the madness. My eternal nemesis, the Hunchback, makes his glorious return. And by glorious, I mean I could launch them into the sun. They're just as erratic and irritating as ever, and the hit detection doesn't always seem to be on the player's side. Like, that whip definitely made contact, but the game disagrees.
Cool, thanks.
Stage 7 thankfully gives some relief with its simple tasks. The silver key is easy enough to find. Getting an axe meant dropping down into a previous section and redoing half the level. But you know what? Worth it. The axe is my emotional support weapon and I cradle it as such. Also, shout out to VampireKiller for not having a time limit. Finally, a game that respects my inability to navigate mazes under pressure. Stage 8 opens with a wall of breakable blocks, some of which obtain white slimes. They're disgusting, annoying, and apparently multiplying like bunnies. At the far right of the map, the level starts looping vertically, which makes zero architectural sense. Did Dracula borrow some spatial design tips from Aperture Science? The 9th stage is probably the most linear one so far, but that doesn't make it more merciful. Medusa heads start coming in hot while I'm trying to deal with bone towers, and let me tell you, it's hard to multitask when one enemy flies like a drunk butterfly and the other spits fireballs like a turret. Please respect my personal space. And then we get to the mummies. Now if you remember the NES game, they could be a serious pain if you got caught without holy water. Here, they're glorified punching bags. Just stay on the raised edge as you enter and go to town. They'll never lay a papery finger on you. Either the devs missed this little trick or they just got tired of making us suffer by this point. Compared to Block 2, Block 3 feels a bit more fair, layout-wise at least. The enemies are definitely turning up the heat and the ever-present threat of no continues isn't exactly bearable.
But for now, I'm still alive, still armed, and somehow still willing to keep going.
I'll say this, I dig the moody blue tones of this cave. It's a nice change of scenery, soothing even. Or at least it would be if it weren't crawling with red mermen who exist solely to knock me into the drink. Wow, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I believe that would work? That's not how VampireKiller does business.
This game doesn't reward optimism.
I'm down to my last life and now it wants me to jump onto moving platforms. Joy. What could possibly go wrong? No! All that progress flushed down the drain like expired wall meat.
This sucks.
10 nervous breakdowns later, I finally made it back. No stair jumps this time. I avoided water like Dracula avoids natural lighting, and thankfully the silver key was just sitting there in plain sight, probably feeling sorry for me. Stage 11 gives me a break. It's a mostly linear track where I just bull rush my way through. Practically every block is breakable, though I don't know if I have the patience to commit this much structural vandalism, much as I love mischief. But hey, it was doable. Then we arrive at stage 12 and suddenly I'm in Castlevania Silent Hill Edition. These weird arched doorways teleport you to another spot on the map. How? You press up while crouching. That's right, up while crouching.
I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. This feels like an elite tier maneuver. A hidden trick passed down by generations of MSX2 monks. Not possible with the NES controller.
Man, where am I even going? Every hallway looks like the last. I'm just wandering in circles, hoping to bump into what I'm supposed to do. Thankfully, death doesn't feel imminent here, which is a refreshing change of pace. Sometimes, just surviving is enough of a moral boost. Then it's boss time. Frankenstein's monster and his buddy Igor. Classic duo. I've come packing holy water, so I hop up onto the left platform and baptize him with a few flames. His health melts like butter in a microwave and I quickly cook the Frankenweenie. Without holy water, I'm guessing this fight would be a total nightmare. But thanks to my accidental preparedness, it was more of a warm-up. Overall, Block 4 might be the easiest set since Block 1, outside of the bottomless pit fiesta in stage 10. I wasn't thrilled about the maze-tastic finale, but it could have been worse.
At this point, could have been worse is practically the VampireKiller mission statement.
Somehow, I have a bad feeling about Block 5. On the NES, it's famously where the game descends into sadism. So how does it fare on the MSX2? Oh, it fares alright. First of all, the red skeletons have undergone some kind of infernal CrossFit regimen. They move faster, they don't stay crumbled as long, and they just radiate unearned confidence. They were already annoying before they started yelling about cardio and sick gains. Second, where the hell am I going? I swear I've been in this room before. Twice, maybe 3 times. I'm gonna use some big words and call this a spatial paradox. And because enemies respawn every time you so much as blink, it's like Groundhog Day with more fleamen and fewer laughs. The only thing keeping me from rage quitting was finding the silver key in stage 13 relatively early. That was nice. But kindness never lasts. Just look at this map. Okay, explain this to me. This room is apparently under another room that's also above it if you use the stairs.
My brain hurts.
I feel like I've accidentally wandered into a Metroidvania designed by a sleep-deprived MC Escher. Also, yes, I still hate hunchbacks. That hasn't changed. They are the worst. They're like if anxiety were a physical enemy in a video game. Just a constant, jittery reminder that nothing is ever okay. So overall, I couldn't stand this stage. And rather than showing you a death montage, I'll let you witness the raw despair in my eyes. That should do it. Knights are lying in wait in stage 14, just tossing axes with perfect aim like it's their life purpose. And I guess it is, because they're just lines of code inside a computer. And now we've got red slimes too. These things jump between platforms with the grace of demonic ballet dancers and land right in your path. And surprise, another silver key waits on a platform above you, which of course you can only reach by dropping down and looping around the map like a confused Roomba. I'm done asking questions. Now I'm even more certain Dracula decorated this castle with MC Escher's help. And too much wine. Stage 15 is thankfully more straightforward. Mostly just knights and they're not too bad. Getting the silver key requires a leap of faith, which is always fun when you've got no safety net of continues. Even after grabbing it, you still have to backtrack and fight the same 5 knights again like it's New Game Plus with extra tedium. But hey, at least the background has some nice portraits. Is that Dracula's great-grandfather? Then there's Death. On the NES, he's an all-time great rage moment. If you don't have holy water, he'll mash you into paste before you even know what's happening. Here, he went down like a guy who forgot his scythe at home. I got hit a few times, lost my axe, panicked a little, but with the hourglass and holy water combo, he just kind of stopped existing.
Calling this a death would be dramatic.
I don't even think he got to finish his monologue. So yeah, the first part of this block was rough, pure headache material. But after that, manageable. Still not a fan of how much repetition there is. It's starting to feel like chores with a body count. That said, the boss battles continue to be suspiciously easy. Like, why?
Anyway, one more block left. I'm too far in to quit now.
Block 6 wastes no time as the very first candle unleashes a red slime to ruin your peaceful intro. Stage 16 has 2 linear paths. The lower path, completely optional. Naturally, I didn't know that, but how did I end up there? A giant bat accidentally knocked me down a pit. I found the silver key, but here's the kicker. There's no way to get back up. It's like the game's mocking me at this point. Even worse, on the next screen is another silver key and somehow I managed to miss a jump and fall to my demise. I can't afford mistakes like that. If you're not playing like an absolute fiend, stage 16's manageable. There's even a third key just sitting there right in front of the door, laughing at me. Told ya, the lower path is just there to mess with you. Stage 17 is the infamous clock tower. And of course, I'm down to my last life. No biggie. Let's go left, smash a wall, and... wait, I can't go back? So now I'm stuck in the pit of despair? Are you serious? I've been grinding through this game for hours and now you're telling me I have to kill myself and restart the whole thing because they couldn't put more stairs here?
Who in their right mind designs a level like this so late in the game?
Man, I'm freaking done. Would extra lives be too much to ask for? One continue? Can I have one measly continue? Nothing. Well, fast forward to me not being able to let go, fighting my way back to the clock tower and not being happy in the slightest about it. So now I know not to get down there yet. First you need to smash a block from the left side, then return from the other side. As I'm making my way through, I'm already worrying about the battle with the Dracula ahead. I need to save the best weapons for that fight, but the game's not exactly making it easy with some chests being hidden in walls. I'm whipping everything around me like a madman. I've dreaded the part with the Fleaman Eagles, and my secret here was to just rush through. No stopping. I'm not wasting any more time with these jerks. Whereas the last stretch of the NES game was just a few stairs in the actual fight with the Dark Lord, here you get one more endurance round, an enemy spree. It's axe knights and hunchbacks galore. Finally I got a weapon from a merchant, but it's only the knife. Feels like a consolation prize compared to my beloved comfort axe. It's better than nothing, I guess. Trying to get the little monsters in these tight spaces is such a bitch. Stay still! Well, to my surprise, I didn't run into any noteworthy problems other than being occasionally confused about stairs. A daily struggle. Oh, is this the final boss room? The huge painting of Dracula looks awesome, but that's not gonna stop me from kicking his ass. Okay, so I have 3 lives left and just my trusty knife. Let's see what good old Drac has to offer. Just like on NES, he's teleporting around and shooting 3 fireballs. But here, it's way easier than I thought. First of all, Dracula is slow. Then I happen to have a reflect shield that blocks the fireballs. Plus, the knife's not too shabby after all. The worst part about it is that it just takes so long. I didn't even get hit once. What a stark contrast. I was expecting a lot more challenge. His head flies off and he freaking explodes. Gross. Who's gonna clean that up? Uh-oh, the painting wakes up, and it's spitting bats at me.
The horror.
I assume I'd better hit that blue spot on his forehead. The third eye is the richest source of psychic power after all. Wow, okay, I guess I'll just crouch up here and spam the shit out of the knife. And wouldn't you know it, that's it. The bats drained about half my energy, but this cheap ass tactic was enough to take down Dracula's portrait on the first try. So the brave young man put Dracula into deep sleep again, and the town restored its peace. Let's pray that the evil mind of human beings will not let Dracula come to life ever again. Bro, you have no idea. At least the credits give us real names this time. No love for Christopher B on MSX2. But isn't it kind of charming the way human beings is smashed together into one word? That must be a dialect I'm not familiar with. In the end, Block 6 wasn't the nightmare I expected. Again, it didn't feel too brutal or confusing, but it had very questionable level design and arguably the worst screen in the entire game. It's an insult to every hardworking gamer. The final boss was pretty much a joke with a pretty rapper. My fears about my weapon setup were completely unfounded, but I'm glad it wasn't as harsh as its NES sibling. I'm not sure I would have gone through another playthrough just to have 3 more shots at Dracula, assuming I still would have that many lives. What? Stage 19? Hell no. Not today, man. I'm out.
Let's wrap this up.
At first glance, VampireKiller on the MSX2 feels like a familiar cousin of the NES Castlevania. You immediately recognize Simon Belmont, his trusty whip, and the overall gothic vibe that defines the series. But don't be fooled by its apparent similarity. This game is a completely different beast in more ways than one. On one hand, VampireKiller retains the core elements that made its NES counterpart unique. The combat system, though relentless and unforgiving, still rewards strategic thinking. Every precise whip swing and carefully timed sub-weapon is designed to test your reflexes and adaptability. The game's design hints at early experimentation, raw and unpolished. While that rawness gives it a certain undeniable charm, that charm is buried under layers of baffling level design and punishing mechanics. Speaking of levels, once you dig deeper into the castle's winding corridors, the differences become inescapably clear. The layouts are messy, clunky labyrinths, often leaving you questioning whether you're making progress or endlessly circling back on yourself. Keys and items are scattered across the map in an overwhelming abundance, as if keys were the theme of the whole game. But rather than enhancing the experience, this surplus only adds to the frustration. Many paths seem intentionally designed to confuse, with stages tangling and intertwining in nonsensical ways that defy logic. Also, how do you know where you can drop down? Is it a bottomless pit, or do I need to jump down there? The frustration ramps up when you consider that every enemy reset is another reminder of just how punishing this title can be. And then there's the matter of continues. Unlike the more forgiving NES version that allows you to restart from your current block, VampireKiller is downright cruel. No passwords, no second chances, no extra lives. Die a few times and you're sent back to square one. This brutal penalty for even the smallest mistake doesn't feel like a challenge to overcome. It feels more like a trap designed to wear you down.
A game should challenge you to get better, not punish you into submission. It doesn't get that balance right.
The controls are another hurdle. Getting into the rhythm of Simon's movements was harder than expected. The physics are a little different than on the NES, and it takes a while to adjust. Simon's movement is faster. It's not a deal breaker, but it certainly adds to the learning curve. After a while, I got used to it, but that initial awkwardness definitely slowed me down. Now, let's talk about the visuals. For an MSX2 title, VampireKiller actually looks pretty sharp. The backgrounds, especially the iconic Dracula portraits, are much more detailed than what the NES could offer. You can really appreciate the effort put into the gothic aesthetics, even if the rest of the design doesn't quite match up. The environments feel a little more atmospheric, and the contrast between the intricately drawn backdrops and the basic character sprites gives the game a somewhat unique charm, but it's hard to focus on that when you're busy trying to figure out which way you're supposed to go next. As for the music, while the tracks are fundamentally the same as on the NES, the sound quality on MSX2 feels just a touch cleaner. Plus, as an authentic European gamer playing the PAL version, the music runs a bit slower, which only deepens the eerie, atmospheric vibe of the game. Even in chill step mode, those haunting tunes punctuate every moment of triumph and despair, offering a brief respite amid the chaos. However, despite the allure of these memorable tracks, the sonic backdrops can't fully redeem an experience marred by baffling level design and an exhausting item system. In conclusion, VampireKiller is an intriguing but deeply flawed experiment in the early days of what would become one of gaming's most iconic franchises. It's no wonder this title has never seen a re-release in the West. VampireKiller is a relic of curiosity for a reason. Its experimental approach and chaotic design make it a historical footnote rather than a polished classic. It encapsulates a time when developers were still figuring out what made a game both challenging and enjoyable. And while it offers some valuable insight into the evolution of Castlevania, that insight is smothered under so many layers of frustration that it's hard to appreciate in the moment.
I'm glad I finally played it. Truly, it's been an eye-opening dive into the origins of Castlevania. But after enduring its incessant maze-like frustration and steep, unforgiving difficulty, there's no way I'm playing it again. I can only appreciate it as a historical oddity.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 6 of season 5. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. You can also support me on Patreon if you like. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.